بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله حمدا كثيرا طيبا مباركا فيه مباركا عليه كما يحب ربنا ويرضى جل جلاله وعم نواله، والصلاة والسلام على سيد الحبيب المصطفى وعلى آله وأصحابه نجوم الهدى قادة التقى. أما بعد، أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. إن الذين قالوا ربنا الله ثم استقاموا تتنزل عليهم الملائكة ألا تخافوا ولا تحزنوا وأبشروا بالجنة التي كنتم توعدون نحن أولياؤكم في الحياة الدنيا وفي الآخرة ولكم فيها ما تشتهي أنفسكم ولكم فيها ما تدعون نزلا من غفور رحيم. صدق الله العظيم. Before we start, we recite Durood Sharif once, please. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد. اللهم بارك على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما باركت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد. Respected brothers and brothers, honorable mothers and sisters at home, Alhamdulillah, well not Alhamdulillah, it's a very sad moment for us that the month of Ramadan has passed. But Alhamdulillah, Allah has brought us a day of celebration, so we could celebrate the efforts we've made in Ramadan. But it's not just a day of celebration, it's also a day of reflection. That we look back over Ramadan and we think, what could I have done better? How great have I done? How much have I done? And how much could I do? Either to maintain it or to better it. You know, ulama, they say that Ramadan is there not so we can get a boost once a year and then the other 11 months of the year we then go downhill. The purpose of Ramadan is so that we know our potential. In Ramadan, I was praying 1 juz of Quran minimum every single day. That means outside of Ramadan, I also have the potential to pray 1 juz every day. In the month of Ramadan, I was praying my 6 rakats awabin, 2 sunnats and 4 nafil after Maghrib Salah. Outside of Ramadan, I also have this potential. Inside of Ramadan, I was giving sadaqah £1 a day. Outside of Ramadan, I also have this ability. So Ramadan is there to show us how much we can do. How good can we be? Why? Because Allah then puts shaitan away. We have two enemies. We have nafs and shaitan. Our own desires. And then we have shaitan. So in Ramadan, Allah says, I'll make it easier for you. I'll take one enemy away. I'll take shaitan away. So it's only you against yourself now. Training camp. Once shaitan comes back, we're supposed to have become so good in these 30 days that when shaitan comes back, it should make no difference to us. But like it is with us, we're human beings, we make mistakes. And even Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, in إِذَا جَاءَ نَصْرُ اللَّهِ وَالْفَتْحِ, the surah, it's a surah I like to quote many times because the surah is so beautiful. And to a person looking at the surah, he probably thinks, what's going on in this surah? If you look at the translation, Allah says, إِذَا جَاءَ نَصْرُ اللَّهِ وَالْفَتْحِ, that, oh Muhammad, this is a direct message to him, one of the last surahs to be revealed. Or some ulama have written, it is a final surah to be fully revealed unto Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So Allah says in that, oh Rasulullah, when you have conquered Makkah, and when people start to enter into Islam, فَسَبِّحْ بِحَمْدِ رَبِّكَ, start doing tasbih of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and seek forgiveness. Now, if you understand where I'm going with this, you start to get confused too. You think Allah has just praised Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam for saying you were the cause of the conquest of Makkah, you did this many things, so many people came into the fold of Islam, 120,000 plus Sahaba came to the fold of Islam. And then after that Allah says, do istighfar, seek forgiveness. Does it make any sense? Allah is praising him, you've done such a good job, you're Ramadan, mashallah, every day you pray Taraweeh, but do istighfar now. It doesn't make any sense. Ulama have taken from this that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is trying to tell Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam that okay, alhamdulillah, your efforts have been priceless. Your efforts have been the foundation of this deen. But still, you're a human and I am Allah. You could never achieve exactly what I wanted you to do. Because of which do istighfar. And so if this was the case with Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, then more so is the case with you and I, where we have tried, alhamdulillah we have tried, we have fasted for 30 days, but our ibadat and our worships haven't reached the level they were supposed to reach. This is why, what's our job now? Istighfar. We say, oh Allah, we've done as much as we could, and the bit that was left over, this is for you to reward us for. The mistakes we've made, this is your job to now look over. So this day of Eid isn't just a day of celebration, it's a day of reflection. And from the time of the Anbiya and the Sahaba, the level of the Iman inside each one of these, whether they were a Nabi or whether they were a Sahaba, fluctuated. Like we are human beings, temperature fluctuates. When temperature fluctuates, what do we have to measure temperature? A thermometer. We have a thermometer to check temperature too high, temperature too low. In the same way, Iman is something which fluctuates. Iman goes high on the night of Laylatul Qadr. Who admits on the night of Laylatul Qadr, who can agree with me that their Iman was sky high, their Iman was really high. They were praying Salatul Tasbih and they made their dua, they made their tawbah, and they said, Allah, I was committing these sins never again. Your Iman was on a high. And then there are times in the year outside of Ramadan where we feel our Iman is going down. We can't wake up for Fajr. We think, you know what, where am I going? So our Iman goes up, our Iman goes down. Everything that goes up and down needs to be monitored. Agreed? So that means we need some sort of monitor for our Iman. Because the level we achieved, remember, I'm going back to that. In Ramadan we had potential. If we want to achieve that potential, and our Iman will go up and down, we need to have a sort of monitor which will keep it on the level of Ramadan. And this is where we start to reflect upon ourselves. And you look at the Sahaba, Ajib, the Sahaba had so much fikr and so much concern for their Iman, about staying steadfast on Iman. We prayed this hadith after Fajr Ta'aleem one day in Ramadan. Sayyidina Hanzala radiallahu ta'ala anhu goes home from Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam's gathering. It's a famous hadith. He goes home and he gets involved with his wife, with his children, with the chores of the house. And then he leaves his house crying, running, shrieking. Nafaqa Hanzala, Nafaqa Hanzala. Oh Hanzala, you have become a hypocrite. He's speaking to himself. Hanzala, you have become a hypocrite. So people in Medina, what's going on with him? What do you mean he's become a hypocrite? Then he meets Sayyidina Abu Bakr radiallahu ta'ala. And Sayyidina Abu Bakr says, Hanzala, what are you talking about? You're such a great Sahabi, you took part in the great battles of Islam. What do you mean you've become a hypocrite? What's happened to you? Hanzala says, you know Abu Bakr, when we're sat with Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, our level of Iman goes so high, we can see Jannat and Jahannam in front of us. And when we go back home and we get involved with our children, we forget everything. Which means my condition by Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, it's something else. When I go home, it's something else. This is the quality of a hypocrite. That from the outside, when people are around him, he shows he's a big Sufi, he's a big pious person. Then on his own, in his own house, he forgets Allah. He says, I've become a hypocrite. And Sayyidina Abu Bakr says, you know what? The same thing happens to me. That means I've also become a hypocrite. So Sayyidina Abu Bakr and Sayyidina Hanzala radiallahu ta'ala anhuma together go to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and they both say to him that we've both become hypocrites. We've both become hypocrites. And Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam says, he looks at them and he smiles and he says, no. Sa'atan for sa'atan. That there is a time for Iman, there is a time where you can see Jannat and Jannam in front of you, and there is a time for your family. But the aim of this hadith was for us to understand that the Sahaba monitored their Iman. How many of us on the 28th Roza or the 27th Roza after the night of Laylatul Qadr, when our Iman, after we woke up after Fajr, Zuhr time, our Iman started to go down, how many of us even recognized it? How many of us even thought that, you know what, my Iman has gone down. Just since in the last 12 hours, my Iman has definitely gone down. And do we have some sort of thermometer for our Iman? Because we consider ourselves to be some sort of, I don't know, that I was born in a Muslim home, or I accepted Islam, and I'm practicing Islam now, which means I'm definitely going to die in Islam. This is the greatest misconception or misunderstanding you could be drawn into. Because even the prophets weren't sure of themselves. And you think I'm saying this, you probably think, what, even the prophets? It's in the Quran. Sayyidina Yusuf alayhi salatu wasalam, who knows his story? Who can give me a very, very quick, summarized outlook of his story? Sayyidina Yusuf alayhi salatu wasalam, as a child, just think, don't just let this go over your head. I keep saying this, don't just let it pass over your head. Think, put yourselves in his shoes for a second. He's a 10-year-old child. His own brothers kidnap him. throw him into a well. They don't put him into a bucket and place him into the well. They throw him into a well. He was lucky to survive the fall. They leave him in the well for dead. They go home and they lie to their father and they say, you know what, a wolf ate him. He's picked up by some people going to Egypt. He's sold in the slave trade. He becomes a slave. He goes into the house of the minister. So number one, his family abandoned him. Number two, he's sold as a slave. This is still as a young child. And then he's in the house of the minister, and the minister's wife comes to him, and the minister's wife says to him, she tries to seduce him, and he says, no. Ma'adallah, I can't be seduced by you. And then she accuses him, he goes into prison. He was innocent and he goes into prison. Miscarriage of justice. And now he's in prison. And then the person in prison forgets him. He leaves him in prison. And then finally, after many years, he becomes free. And then he becomes a minister of Egypt. So this is a prophet who went through the greatest sacrifices. Wallahi, let's be honest, you and I probably won't be able to stand through these trials that he went through. And he went through 4 great trials in his life. And then finally, so he's gone through the troughs of his life. He gets to the peaks when he becomes a minister of Egypt. He's given prophethood. And you're thinking, you know what, if anybody is going to die with Iman, he's definitely going to die with Iman. Because he's been through the hardest parts of his life and he's still held on firm to his Iman. And yet, what is his dua? What is his final dua? أنت ولي في الدنيا والآخرة توفني مسلما وألحقني بالصالحين. He says, oh Allah, even though I've been through so many difficulties in my life and so many hardships in my life, you are the one who has control over me. You are my protective guardian. توفني مسلما. I beg you, when you give me death as a Muslim, give me death as a mu'min. How many of us have even made a dua like this? That Allah, give me death as a mu'min. We don't. Why? Because we think my name is Abdullah, my name is Muhammad, my name is Yaqub, I'm definitely dying as a mu'min. Just because I have a name, just because I'm in the household of a Muslim, do you think we're going to die as Muslims? May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala all give us all a beautiful death. And a death after which He is pleased with, a death that the angels come, and the angels, from the moment our eyes of the dunya are closed and the eyes of our hearts and the eyes of the hereafter open, the angels show us Jannat and say, this is your abode in Jannatul Firdaus. This is the death we want. But we can't become complacent and you think, I'm making this up. No, I'm not making this up. We have children, and by children I mean 18, 19, 20-year-olds. Studying philosophy in schools, studying philosophy in universities. These children who are grown up. Now predominantly we have 3 main communities. 3 main communities in Gloucester, okay, in our small town, this city. We have the Bangladeshis, Pakistanis and Gujaratis. We have some Arabs, some African brothers. But predominantly these 3 make up the majority of the numbers. Because we've been here for many years, so the numbers have become greater. So you'd have thought that if a child came from a stable home from these communities, and Gloucester is very small, and we only have about 15, 20 streets where the Muslims live. So we are very tight-knit community. And we've come from a home, the foundations are very strong. We have children from these homes emailing me and saying, I don't want to be a Muslim anymore. Oh, I'm not making this up. I don't want to be a Muslim anymore. I said, what's the problem? Tell me. He writes me a 3-page, I think maybe it's 3 or 5 pages of questions. And he says, these are all the doubts I have about Iman, and these are all the doubts I have about Islam. And I say to him, you know what, I'm not going to answer any of your questions. Because until you don't believe in a being greater than us, in a supernatural being, if you want to call it like that, in a divine being, until you don't believe in the unseen, and you can't take the leap of faith, I could answer 5 pages, tomorrow you'll come with another 20 page worth of questions. You need to believe in this firm, this main foundation of the deen, that we will believe in the unseen. And the child refused, and you know what ended up happening? I tell you what ended up happening. He's a child from our local community, and he's not the only one. Oh, believe me, he's not the only one. Comes into the masjid for a couple of weeks. So I become surprised that he's in the masjid now, mashallah. Alhamdulillah, he's in the masjid. After saying all these things and throwing people out of his home, this is quite an achievement. He's come back to the masjid. After 2 weeks, he's disappeared again. What's happened to him now? He came back to the masjid, alhamdulillah, then he disappeared from the masjid. What's going on? So somebody who found out about him went to see him and said, "Beta, what's wrong? What's going on? You said you left Islam, and you came to the masjid, and you left Islam again. What game are you playing?" He says, "You know what? I wanted to do a retrial of my faith. So I came to the masjid for 2 weeks because I had exams, and I wanted to test Allah to see if He helped me in my exams. And I thought He didn't test me, so I said, forget it. I don't need this faith anymore." These are real life stories happening this year in our cities, in these 15, 20 streets we live on. We can't become complacent with our iman just because we have names, Muslim names. Just because we live in Muslim families, we might be hafiz of Quran. There are stories in Scotland of huffaz of Quran who have become priests in churches. These aren't fairy tales, these are real life stories. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect the iman of our own and protect the iman of our children. And really this is what we're aiming for. In Ramadan we reached the peak of iman. We reached the peak, and now we need to hold fast to this iman. And when iman enters our heart, then it doesn't matter what anybody else says. I want to proclaim this iman. If I have the identity of a Muslim, I have a beard, I wear a kufi, a tupi, I wear a jubba, I feel, you know what, this is my faith. I will pray salah in the workplace, I will pray salah in the service station, even if people look at me in a funny way. You know, once we were traveling, I had relatives from South Africa came. We were traveling in a service station a few months ago, and we started praying salah, there was nobody there watching over us. By the time we finished just 2 rakats, we had a huge gathering, was 60, 70 people just watching us pray salah. Now what if our praying salah was an inspiration for even one of those people to look into the faith and maybe 10 years later accept the faith? This is what happens when iman enters your heart. Where it doesn't matter how many people look at you and how many people call you names, iman is iman. Who knows us? Abu Dharr radiallahu ta'ala, Abu Dharr al-Ghifari radiallahu ta'ala, when he accepted Islam, amazing story. He sends his brother, he was from the Ghifar tribe. He sends his brother towards Makkah when Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam is. He says, "You know what, my brother, there's a man who claims to be a prophet. Go to find out about Islam from him. What's this religion he's preaching?" His brother goes, and his brother comes back with news that he wasn't very sure about. So Abu Dharr says, "You know what, forget it, I'll go myself. I want to go myself, I want to find out myself." So he ends up in Makkah. He doesn't know anybody there, nobody knows him. So he sees Ali radiallahu ta'ala coming out of the masjid. So he says, "You know what, this looks like, what a prayer place. This looks like a masjid, whatever." So he just follows Ali home. He doesn't speak. Ali radiallahu ta'ala realizes he's a guest. And the Arabs are very hospitable, so Ali radiallahu ta'ala looks after his food. 3 days they don't speak. 3 days they don't speak. After 3 days, Ali radiallahu ta'ala goes, "Okay, 3 days are over, what's going on now? Why did you come here?" He says, "I heard there's a man called Muhammad who's preaching this religion of Islam, and I want to find out, I want to go and visit him." Ali radiallahu ta'ala said, "Okay, fine, no problem, follow me to the masjid. If I stop to tie my shoelaces, or my, the straps on the sandals, then you continue to walk, because it's probably because somebody is following us." So Abu Dharr says, "Okay, that makes sense." So he follows Ali radiallahu ta'ala, and they enter the masjid. He sees Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. He's impressed by what Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam has to say to him, and he accepts Islam. He accepts Islam, and now once this bashashara, once this attraction of iman falls into his heart, and this passion and this emotion builds inside his heart, Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam says, "You know what, in Makkah, the Muslims, we have to stay slightly subdued, because we don't have enough numbers in Makkah. They're going to persecute you, they're going to attack you if you tell them." Abu Dharr radiallahu ta'ala goes, "You know what, this iman, this passion is burning." You know, like when you have, the only way I can explain this is when somebody tells you a secret, but it's good news. For example, your wife tells you, "Okay, we're going to have a child," for example. You think it's good news, but she's hide it. You can't keep it in. A week later, you just go and tell everybody. Or more with our physical side, maybe you're feeling slightly sick, you want to vomit, you try to keep it in, but finally it leaves. So this passion, this emotion runs inside his heart, and he says, "You know what, I can't hold it anymore." So he goes towards the Kaaba. He goes, "Who cares what's going to happen to me?" He says, "Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu rasulullah." And the Quraysh of Makkah come and they beat him black and blue. They beat him. Sayyidina Abbas, who isn't yet a Muslim, but he's one of the leaders of the Quraysh. They come and they say, no, leave him, don't touch him. He's from the Ghifar tribe. And our food comes from the Ghifar tribe. We trade with the Ghifar tribe. If you beat him, you're going to go hungry next year. So let him go. So the people said, okay, we'll let him go. Abu Dharr radiallahu ta'ala then goes back. Now this iman is still building inside his heart. This passion is building. I want to explain to you what iman does. What iman should do to us. I don't want you to go out and start shouting takbir everywhere. No. I want the iman to come into our hearts in such a way where it doesn't matter which obstacles the dunya or the enemies put in front of us, it won't let me stop practicing my faith. Abu Dharr comes up the next day and he says, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, I've accepted Islam. And they go, Sabbat, you've become a Sabi. You've left the faith of your forefathers to accept Islam. And they beat him again. And Sayyidina Abbas radiallahu ta'ala comes and he protects him again. This is what iman does. This is what our iman should do. When I walk, what is the taqaba of my iman? What is the demand of my iman? How should I behave with iman? Iman isn't just in the masjid. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam says, Imaqatul adha anit tariq min al-iman. That to move something that is an obstacle in the path is also from iman. To love something for your brother, what you love for yourself is also iman. Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, that person cannot be a believer. And the Sahaba said, go on, who can't be a believer? And Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, that person cannot be a believer. And the Sahaba asked again, what are you talking about? Who can't be a believer? He says, that person cannot be a believer who eats while his neighbor goes hungry. This is iman. This is what we were taught in Ramadan. We weren't just taught to pray salah in Ramadan. We were taught to give sadaqah in Ramadan. We were taught to look after humans, to look after Muslims, to look after each other in Ramadan, to have sympathy and empathy for those who are less fortunate for us. All of this is iman. Inna ad-deena inna Allahi Islam. Islam isn't just in the masjid. Islam is everywhere. And this is a point I want us to focus on today. That when we leave the masjid, we understand the value of this iman. You know, when somebody gives you a gift, he wants to see you using the gift properly. If I give you a pen, I want to make sure that pen is in your top pocket all the time, because it makes me happy to see you using that pen, does it not? It makes me happy that he's using the gift I gave him. Maybe he'll remember it and make dua for me. So it makes me happy when people use my pens, when people use my gifts. What if I gave somebody a gift and this person in front of me just breaks it up, or he gives it to somebody else? How would I feel? How would you feel if somebody did that to you? You give him a gift, he opens a gift wrap, he puts his own gift wrap on, puts his own little label on, and gives it to somebody else. Then I gave you this gift, I gave it to you so you can use it. You won't be best pleased. The greatest gift and the greatest blessing we have is iman. Allah wants to make sure we're using this iman properly. The greatest gift we have are our limbs, our body parts. Allah wants to make sure we're using these properly. What does using it properly mean? We use it, so when I use my hands, Allah becomes happy. When I use my feet, Allah becomes happy, because remember, اليوم نختم على أفواههم وتكلمنا أيديهم وتشهد أرجلهم بما كانوا يكسبون. Allah says very, very explicitly in the Quran, Allah says very explicitly that the reason why your limbs and your body parts are so important is because in the hereafter your tongues and your mouths will be sealed. You won't be able to speak a word. Your fingers will speak, and your feet will speak, and your body parts will speak. And then they will ask, وَيَوْمَ يُحْشَرُ أَعْدَاءُ اللَّهِ إِلَى النَّارِ فَهُمْ يُوزَعُونَ حَتَّى إِذَا مَا جَاءُوهَا شَهِدَ عَلَيْهِمْ سَمْعُهُمْ وَأَبْصَارُهُمْ وَجُلُودُهُمْ بِمَا كَانُوا يَعْمَلُونَ وَقَالُوا لِجُلُودِهِمْ لِمَ شَهِدْتُمْ عَلَيْنَا. We will ask our body parts, لِمَ شَهِدْتُمْ عَلَيْنَا. Why? Why today are you standing against me? You were with me for 60, 70 years of my life. Oh skin, I looked after you for so many years. And today you're speaking against me. And then our body parts will speak up. أَنْتَقَنَا اللَّهُ الَّذِي أَنْتَقَ كُلَّ شَيْءٍ وَهُوَ خَلَقَكُمْ أَوَّلَ مَرَّةٍ. This isn't any choice of mine. Allah has made me speak. So we have this blessing of iman. and we have this blessing of our bodies. We need to make sure our bodies are used in the worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And after Ramadan, I don't want us to become old. You cannot become, well, you can actually if you wanted to, but I don't expect us to become awliya and great pious people overnight. Islam doesn't work like that. Even when we're leaving a sin, nobody expects you to leave the sin immediately, especially if it's an addiction. One person comes to Mawlana Shaykh Ahmad Gangohi rahmatullahi alayhi and he says, I'm addicted to cannabis, to weed. What do I do? And I smoke so much a day, what do I do? Mawlana Shaykh Ahmad said, don't stop immediately. Because like a heroin addiction, if somebody's been addicted to heroin for 10 years and the last day you take him off it and you say, I want you to survive like this, he'll go crazy. He'll probably kill himself, he'll go mad. So he says, you know what? I know you're addicted, so we'll take it down in bit by bit. This is what Islam wants. Allah is sabur, Allah will be patient with you. Allah says bit by bit, get to me, slowly, slowly. These small deeds which we underestimate, never underestimate them. Sayyidina Bilal radiallahu ta'ala, the story of Sayyidina Bilal, we could speak about him all day. You know the story, Sayyidina Bilal radiallahu ta'ala was a slave, he was beaten, trodden on, he had huge boiling boulders put on his stomach, and the blood would seep from his back, and his wounds would be closed because of the heat of the sand. And he would put out the fire. And you think this Bilal radiallahu ta'ala an, Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam says, Ya Bilal, I saw you with me in Jannah. In one narration, I saw you in front of me in Jannah, and I could hear your footsteps. What's going on, Bilal? What have you done because of which you're so beloved to Allah? How did you become so beloved to Allah that whilst I'm still alive and whilst you're still alive, I can see you're in Jannah and you're walking side by side with me? There must be something amazing you're doing. Sayyidina Bilal radiallahu ta'ala says, you know what, I don't do much, but every time after I make wudu, I pay 2 rakat salah nafil. I pay 2 rakat nafil salah after every time I make wudu. But I do it every day, after every time I make salah, because of which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given me this position in Jannah. So what I'm saying is we need to take things bit by bit. Don't take everything from Ramadan, because then we'll collapse. We'll collapse. Take 1 or 2 things from Ramadan. In Ramadan, every day, I used to recite 1 juz of the Quran. I can't do 1 juz of the Quran because I'm very busy now. I'll do 2 sides. 1 double page of the Quran. That's it. But do it every day. Or do 1 juz of the Quran, but do it one side of the Quran, but do it every single day. Anything I make an azam and I make an intention to do it every day, as small as it might be. Every day in Ramadan, I pray 10 rakats of nafil and sunnat salat together. You know what, outside of Ramadan, I can't do that much. I'll do 2. 2 rakats a day, that's it. Just 2 rakats. Extra nafil salah. So I'll pray my farad and I'll pray my sunnat, and on top of my farad and sunnat, I'll pray 2 rakats nafil every day, that's it. And slowly, slowly build. If we try to do too much, we'll break, we'll collapse. We're humans. The foundation isn't yet strong enough. We need to build this foundation by doing it slowly, 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 slowly. So this was the aim of today's talk. That I want us to realize the potential we showed ourselves in Ramadan. We were brilliant, especially, I can't speak for the other masjids because I wasn't there. But alhamdulillah, our masjid, Masjid Umar, stayed abad and stayed busy throughout the entire month of Ramadan. Alhamdulillah. And this is a testimony to the people who congregated inside the masjid. There's nothing we've done. I didn't drag you and bring you here. You came on your own accord and you came to the masjid because you wanted to connect to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala keep us connected to the masjid. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala keep us connected to the ulama. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala help us fulfill the potential that we showed in Ramadan. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect our iman and protect the iman of the generations to come. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgive all our shortcomings, forgive all the mistakes in Ramadan. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept all our worships, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us from His ibadik as-salihin. One thing I remembered just now, Ibadik as-salihin means Allah's pious servants. What dua do you recite in at-tahiyyatu? التحيات لله والصلوات والطيبات السلام عليك أيها النبي ورحمة الله وبركاته السلام علينا وعلى عباد الله الصالحين. Every time any person in the world does التحيات لله, he makes dua for those ibadikal, what is it? عِبَادِ اللَّهِ الصَّالِحِينَ, for those servants of Allah who are pious. So whenever you make a dua, put this in your dua now. Say, oh Allah, make me from your عِبَادِ اللَّهِ الصَّالِحِينَ. So every time somebody makes dua, I become part of this dua. Such a simple deed. Every time I pray at-tahiyyatu, if your dua gets accepted and you become from Allah's عِبَادِ اللَّهِ الصَّالِحِينَ. Beautiful. Every time I make dua, every time everybody here and 1.6 billion Muslims in the world say at-tahiyyatu, so many times every day, I get involved in that dua, inshallah. What a beautiful fadilat. So just something extra we can make dua for. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us all a sound understanding of deen. We're not going to do method of Eid Salah because we did it yesterday. Now I'm joking, we'll do it inshallah. See some worried faces. Right? Could people just could come slightly closer please for these 2 minutes, because there are people waiting outside. So try to just tighten up, just for 2 minutes. And we'll start Eid Salah very shortly, inshallah. Eid Salah is wajib, like we all know. And the khutbah after Eid Salah is also wajib. We must sit in the khutbah. I don't want to see anybody leaving the masjid, because I know everybody's off work today anyway, or they go to work late. So nobody has the excuse and say, I have to go for work. Nobody should leave the masjid after Eid Salah. Stay for the khutbah. It's wajib to listen to the khutbah, to remain silent like it is the Jumu'ah khutbah. Now the way we read Eid Salah, no adhan, no iqamah. I just say Allahu Akbar after you straighten your rows, of course. And we'll raise our hands like normal, Allahu Akbar. Fold them, Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdika wa tabarak asmuka wa ta'ala jadduka. If you're Shafi'i, you pray another dua. If you're Maliki, you won't pray a dua. And then once my hands are folded, before the Imam says Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen, I'll say takbir twice. Allahu Akbar, raise your hands and drop them. Allahu Akbar, raise your hands and drop them. And then the third time, Allahu Akbar and fold them. So 3 takbirs after the first one. Drop, drop and fold. Imam will say Alhamdulillah, Surat, Ruku', Qawma, Sajda, Jalsa. First salah will be normal. He'll stand back up. Imam will stand back up. I'll recite Surah Fatiha without any takbirs. Then I'll recite a surah. Now, in the second rakat, in the first rakat, when were the takbirs? Before or after qiraat? Before qiraat. In the second rakat, the takbirs are after the qiraat. So after I finish the surah, then takbir will start. We'll do 4 takbirs. Okay? Allahu Akbar, raise your hands and drop them. Allahu Akbar, raise your hands and drop them. Third time, Allahu Akbar, raise your hands and drop them. Fourth time, don't raise your hands, go straight into ruku. And then we'll finish salah as normal. So the way I'd like to summarize it is, in the first rakat, fold, drop, drop and fold. Fold for thana, then drop, drop and fold for qiraat. In the second rakat, drop, drop, drop and then go straight into ruku. Make sense? May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept.